Okay, I'd like to introduce everyone. This is Ray, this is Chris, this is Liz, and this is Amy, and I'm Ron Shane. What we're going to be doing today is kind of using a little music, a little movement to try to uplift the language that I've extracted from this 12-volume poem that I put together, which is out right here. This poem is based on Milton's Paradise Lost, and it's basically trying to upgrade the human psyche for the modern world. Some of the themes that are operative in the Judeo-Christian epistemology, I feel are no longer operative in the world that we're living in. And what I've done is I've extracted from Taoism, the pre-Socratic Greeks, some of the Renaissance humanism, and elements out of many primitive cultures to come up with a model for human consciousness, which I think would be a lot more Edenic, a lot more fascinating, and a lot more euphoric than what we're experiencing in today's consciousness. Many of you, I don't know where you're coming from, but at least from what I can see, what we have in the mindset for today's mind really is not bringing us a opulence of joy. In fact, it's putting us in a position where we are somewhat distraught and not actualizing the human potential to the degree that we're capable of experiencing. And what I'm trying to do in this particular work is to allow the inner self, or what you might call what's inside of us under the guise of our exterior self, to manifest in a way that would be a lot more fascinating, and we would live in a way where paradise and pleasure would be much more at our minds than some of the conscious suffering that we experience in the modern Judeo world. And I'm sure all of you are interested in cleansing your minds of certain possibilities that keep us hindered, impeded from certain feelings. So the poetry that I'm going to be bringing forth here is actually about 3 or 4 pages from each of the 12 volumes. This poem is close to 800 pages. It's one of the longest poems that I know of written in this hemisphere. And what the story is directly the same parallels Milton's Paradise Lost. For most of you who probably haven't heard of Paradise Lost, Paradise Lost is dealing with Genesis. It's the theme of the fall of one of the Godheads and eventual earthly fall of man. It's dealing with the Adam and Eve. And I use a completely different metaphor. In my story, instead of the normal Godhead, I use Zeus. The fallen Godhead is Saturn or Dionysus. Dionysus in the early Greeks was the god of vertical, etheric ecstasy. Most of the primitive cultures and some of the early Greeks were concerned with states of rapture. I mean, they were not really interested in how to gain more money in their bank accounts, or whether their Ferrari went faster than someone else's. What they wanted to do was to use the human life force in such a fashion that they would get the same level of pleasure that a large predator gets when it stalks its prey. And they would keep that state at that optimal level for a few hours. You know, they would go into frenzy states. Now, our Western consciousness cannot understand that. I mean, you get rock stars like Axl Rose, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix that were using enough drugs to turn their brains into serotonin rivers, and they were attempting to kind of intuitively experience that landscape, which is a natural response. You know, if we all of a sudden removed our conscious minds, which is what the theme that I deal with here, is the removal of the conscious mind. Now, we all think that what we contemplate, what we reflect upon each day, is really where it's happening. And it may be what's happening for you. However, there is a whole dimension, or many dimensions of self, that cannot be experienced when you're thinking about your bills, you're thinking about your job, you're thinking about your kids, you're worried about what's going to happen in the future, you're worried whether your wife is cheating on you, you're worried whether you're looking good, you're worried about this, you're worried about that. You know, all these thoughts are, you know, constantly bombarding us. And what I'm dealing with in this book is what would it be like if we took that part of our intellect and melted it away. What sort of individuals would we be? What instincts would emerge, and what would we feel when that encountered? Many of you know how good it feels when you're at the apex of sexuality, and you're just going at it, and you're on that rush. You're not thinking about anything more. You just want to climb higher and higher to the point of where you feel free. You begin to feel that predator feeling, that really strong animalistic feeling. Certain people experience that when they, paint, or sometimes when they dance, or sometimes if they're in martial arts, when they break that board at the moment of impact, they feel that total expression of freedom. And many primitives do that in their mythology and in their religions. In primitive cultures, religion is employing a form of mythology to dull the conscious mind to where the intuitive self is able to express a certain freedom and a certain liberation, where when that is finally governing you, you feel such a primordial sense of pleasure that you can't believe how good you're feeling, because you're not caught in this monolithic state that we call reality. I mean, it is something that's about as real as anything we want to fabricate, except we believe it to be real. We allow ourselves a certain vibration. Now, what Milton is dealing with, Milton is justifying this state. He is saying that the moment that we come into the flesh, we are sinners. We are wrong. We must live a certain type of life to find a type of inner, kind of like an inner sense of harmony. And so we're born in disharmony. Now, many of the primitive cultures and like Taoist religions, they take the point of view that we achieve a state of innocence and purity and beauty and perfection at the time that we're very young, but we are inculcated into this particular culture, and we, get caught in this web of chaos and confusion, and we believe what we're told, and this is what causes us to be disfigured on the inside. So, I argue against that. I use many of the thoughts of some of the tantric yoga themes, some of Buddhism, Taoism, and Renaissance humanism, which borrowed greatly from the early Greeks, where they have a whole different picture. We are supposed to celebrate this earthly existence and try to achieve a natural sense of paradise inside ourselves. So what I'll be reading here might not make much sense to really understand the entire vision of what I'm doing with epistemology. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it means why we know what we know, our reality, what we think. Like if you sat down one day with some type of shaman from some strange culture, they may have a different reality. They're going to think something different. If you go to Thailand, or if you go to Bali, if you go to New Guinea, you go someplace in South America, they have a different reality. Their time is different. What they believe their gods are different. Their connection with the earth is different. Their connection with the stars are different. They feel a different reality. Now, we think our reality is the only reality, and it's probably not. There's other dimensions. And they feel things and know things that we don't understand, and they're feeling a sense of pleasure. Now, much of our action is based on a type of pleasure. You know, we want to feel pleasure, but you've read the books that come out showing that our materialism may not lead us to feel a sense of sublimity within ourselves. And we must look at other ways. And knowledge and self-exploration might be a path in which you can unfold certain possibilities. So I'm going to open up questions once we go through the text here. Amy's going to be working on a little bit, and I'll be working on, so you'll get a juxtaposition between different energies in terms of this performance. Any questions? Let's do it. Guys, are ready? Okay, so just, you know my case. Amy's going to open up first. Take your, I'll go back. You go one. Just go one. Yeah, just stop here. We'll all pick up. Just do this, come up. Why don't you just go off the front? Okay, let's do it. Start moving.
The wings of night governs and bestows a ring of mystique upon our interior essence. And the sensuous flesh is likewise luminously heated with the witchery of extreme primitive savagery, which melts away the restraints of exterior consciousness and its restrictive, oppressive, prosaic sanctions. Shamanistic, frenzied women who are alchemically intoxicated have wondrously decorated their flesh with lurid, fiery vermilion and excessively electrify the mental extravagance of their inner sanctuary. And their blighted, mercurial, perceptive lucidity, with its all-encompassing envisionment, miraculously sees the putrid mortals in lowest repentant flight.
And these higher renegades paganistically shuffle off their corporal sphere in rituals of eerie, symbolic slaughter, where they spiritually comprehend that the Judeo-Christian truths are nothing more than lavish fumes of bombastic jocularity. And its illusionary godhead is a dream of psychic incarceration, which freezes our mystical power with its constricting ubiquitous fearfulness. The deepest roots of our divine essence and its transcendent mysterious energies have been thoroughly relegated to a horrid psychological charnel house, which is a mortifying grave where the soul torpidly and ruinously, aberrantly rots.
Man's regions ulcerously facilitates and brings about the wretched, dirt-like fossilification of his vibrant alchemical spirit. In contrast, the superior warrior unfurls his urethral beauty, ecstatic, meditative, licentious ceremonies. And these inspiring, lavish tantric rites, wondrously arouse our heavenly quintessence, were profoundly achieved in elusive magnificence. The common ratiocination understands not the spirit's sagacious instinctuality and its effervescent regal fervor. Modern social existence is like torrential winds that blow astray the mind's cold powers of visionary sorcery. And the modern individual will never experience the mythic lunar truth. And these maverick exotic streams are thoroughly thwarted and annihilated by his envious, profane, intellectual consciousness. However, the noble rebel is an unfathomable psionic beacon who transverses in his ineffable mystical sphere with wild, unencumbered exuberance. He delights in his clandestine wizardry and is an accomplished shaman, toast lunar witchery. And his rituals are actualized diurnally upon reverent Elysium altars.
What's going on right now, the words may seem strange to you, what they're talking about. And what I'm dealing with is, what are we like when we are no longer consumed by common rationality and we begin to understand some of the higher truths that are inside our mystic minds? And most of you may not know what that feels like, but it's very different. It's a form of understanding which is very interesting. And when you unleash that part of yourself, the power you achieve and the energy that you begin to know is something very enthralling. And for the Western mind, they go, what the hell is that person talking about? Why would someone want to do that? When I have my car, I have my stereo, I have my radio, I have my friends, I have 42 channels on my cable station. Why would I want to understand this? There's no reason to. I'm not bored. But for some people, they have a quest to experience depths which are quite unknown and quite impassioned to them. So that's what's going on so far. Mankind must rekindle his mental eminence, which is now like a spring whose pleasures have become arid and obscure. And he must devastate those configurations of thoughts that usurp and steal away the heart's joyous, sacred splendor.
The seething enchantment of the mind sorcery consumes the spirit in its lunar frenzy. And this is the quintessential arcane pleasure of the superior shamanistic renegades. However, they are assiduously bent on annihilating man's doleful, cursive social reality. And this would engender man's nirvanic psyche to be evocatively ecstatic. And its etheric, hedonistic wisdom would majestically flourish with enthralling magnificence. Thusly, man's divine sagaciousness must not be mortified nor impeded by his rancid, perceptual baseness. The hearts of these renegades are not discordant, nor esteemed by witless, capricious feats, but rather are wildly valorous and passionately focused with chivalrous, unbridled wrath upon Zeus and his earthly, invidious cohorts.
Okay, what's going on here is I'm talking about a sense of rebellion, a form of metaphysical rebellion. And for many people, that's completely out of their dimension of perception. And their incorporeal beauty is not tainted nor besmirched by man's vulgar psychological oppression. These rebels are imbued with seditious fire and desire to devastate modern man's tyrannous empire of covert psychic subjugation and horrid spiritual allurement. These rebel warriors are pugnaciously determined to deconstruct and thoroughly destroy society's mental edifices of ludicrous distillation
and intellectual dominion of dismal trepidation. Dionysian metaphysics and Saturn's mystical epistemology shall again reign supreme within man's esoteric consciousness. And Zeus's execrable intrications shall be wondrously dissipated into imagination's darkest oblivion. Man's fiendish mental pragmatism and his usurping analytical reason will be upended by the rebels' direful besiegement. The renegade army is wantonly coy, comprised of future tricksters like the cunning god Hermes. In contrast to society's battalions,
Diana, the titaness and ruler of the spirit's alchemical dominion, and the queen of sacred sorcery, utilizes the masculine yang energy as the essential component in erotic, mystical ceremonies of mysterious transformation. Her ascendant beauty exceeds Zeus's banal powers, and Vulcan, in obsequious orisons, surrenders his spurious essence
to her enchanting marvels. Man's naturalistic physical energies, which the raw, pure pleasures of our corporeal body, through radical metamorphosis, they are altered into incorporeal substance and becomes the fundamental source which energizes and invigorates our higher sacred dominant sphere. Thusly, metaphysical mutability is the inveterate and sagacious dynamics of our paganistic mystical consciousness. Vulcan comes upon the clandestine hovel, where a throng of Dianic female huntresses are assembled, and they are engaged in ecstatic meditative reverence to the leopard queen's enthralling, regal, ascendant, erotic, impassioned elegance. And Vulcan is attired like a cavalier from a Roman commander.
Why are you profane temple harlots, not overwhelmed and delighted by my godly presence? You must be taught and conditioned to entertain me with sacerdotal duty.
We wait not your loathsome nature, and are offended by your foully decomposed spirit. Vulcan, your heart is infused not with amorous merriment, but inflicts a dirge of painful shame and direful perturbation in our beatific soul. O Zeus, your omnipotent father, kindles and cultivates guile, obstinate hate, and destructive wrath in man's benevolent psyche.
You are terrified by my dank doom of unfaltering judgment, and obsequiously recoil from the naked repugnance of my harrowing enmity. Your defiant arrogance shall be diminished and overcome by my divine, majestic persona. Your antic of rejoicement and delight will be eclipsed by my terror.
Your vile, pernicious fiend, don't presume to resurrect yourself as our imperious judge, and we are not affected by perjured quips of slander, nor your prescriptions of mystical constriction. You detest our luminous mystique and have attempted to thoroughly subdue our powers of alchemical metamorphosis.
You are a traitorous, diabolical sorceress, and it is essential that your whimsical actions be curtailed and suspended of their ill. Moreover, your perfect behavior will be principled to stern obedience. And you imps should plead for mercy and servilely resign themselves to man's treacherous authority. Society's reality excels your rebellious indignation. You women should violently be coerced and succumb to masculine subjugation and rule. Women should only be erotic stimulators of adornment and enjoyment. Cease your vile boldness, as you are destined to be forever abashed and servile. Be consumed in submission to man's pedestrian will. You women must be wretchedly grovel like mindless, malevolent serpents. You are spoilers and defamers of mankind's virtuous powers.
Shamanistic females are charmers and evocative facilitators of static ascension. And your heinous edicts have deadened and usurped the exotic uses of our mystical ebullience. Your persuasive epistemology educates the human spirit to venerate scurrilous sorrow and hideous rueful dismay. Rather than experiencing the earthly sphere as a Saturnian celebration of resplendent pleasure, no longer conceal and array the splendiferous marvelment of our etheric bodies with your hideous cloak of fallacious squalidness. Instead, our transcendent iridescent beauty shall with Elysian regalness illuminously enthrall all earthly hearts with mysterious delirium. We have forsaken your psychological interior manacles of upper-vis diminution, and you should be veteran of our nirvanic fiery essence. Your wings of fear are not at our pleated heels, and we can fly with you like capricious spirited Mercury. You redouble the joy of my soul with your resplendent ecstasy. In subtle language exceeds the nerve when it spouts by human voice. Your excessive feels are surely not objective. Your deeper actions are unlike the benumbed multitude who hopelessly rise, chaotically traverse from becoming endemic earthly sphere. They apprehend not the interior mind's mercy splendor. Imperial savage predator, illuminate the comprehension of why the provocative keeping my heart. Powerful passion to love. Dionysus transforms himself back into my body.
You are an alchemical female of spirit transformational wisdom. Allow my arcane pedagogy of amorous knowledge to provide me with shamanistic strength to strangely alter the inward powers of those other noble renegades. And humans will again be inspired, ecstatic, to be motivated evocatively to engage in exotic techniques of ritualism. Their rational thought will be dissipated like oblique clouds, and their imagination will be enthralled by supremely spectacular divine pleasures. Your savage muse shall be man with ecstatic magnificence, and a solemn sphere of mystical worship.
Superior individuals can't experience any harmony, nor sacred accordance with the loathsome and foul mind speech. We must champion etheric proportionality and psychic resplendence in order to be overwhelmed with enchanting euphoria, which edifies and elevates our fiery essence and consciousness. Lower man cannot be a fit consort, nor comprehend our soaring mental extravagance. The elevated warrior must commingle with others to reflect and exude this mystical marvel. Those who possess an unfettered temperament are deeply envenomed toward our gracious perfection and desire to seduce us with their encumbering positions.
They find great comfort in anointing stolen when they unify with another whose spiritually blooms and is inundated with precarious defects. The multitude are not capable of vertically elevating their spirit and feel the annoying dissonance toward those persons who spiritually feel nirvanic fusions. Contemporary society is principally motivated with obscuring increase to bring about the ulcerous depletion of the human soul.
As well as other associated, strange and horrid types of diseases. The multitude feels inability